All right, everybody, welcome back to Talk Tickers for another deep dive. Now, usually we're all about those earnings calls, but we got to switch gears today. Some big news just dropped, and we got to talk DraftKings.
Yeah, big news for sure. They're testing out a subscription service.
Subscription service, you heard that right. And this could be a real game changer for the whole sports betting world. So let's break this down. What do we know so far?
Well, basically, DraftKings is rolling out this pilot program in New York. They're calling it DraftKings Plus. And for $20 a month.
$20 a month?
Yep, $20 a month. Subscribers get enhanced odds.
Enhanced odds. Yep.
Specifically on parlays and same game parlays. But there's a catch. There's a $25 max bet limit.
So you can't exactly get rich quick with this subscription, even if you hit a huge parlay.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a trade-off there. And that's what makes this whole thing so interesting. It's a whole new way of doing things in the sports betting world.
Totally. And this isn't just some random experiment, right? DraftKings has been dropping hints about this kind of move for a while, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely. If you've been following their earnings calls like we have, you'll remember they've been really pushing parlays lately.
They even introduced those, what were they called? Progressive parlays.
Yeah, progressive parlays, trying to get people to bet more on those multiple game wagers. So this subscription service seems like a natural extension of that strategy.
Okay, so why parlays? Why are they so focused on parlays? I mean, for a lot of us casual bettors, parlays are kind of like the lottery tickets of sports betting. You know, fun to dream about, but not exactly a reliable way to make money.
Right. Well, for the bettor, it's all about that potential for a big payout. But for the sportsbook, for DraftKings in this case, parlays are actually much more profitable.
How so?
Well, think about it. To win a parlay, you got to get every single bet, right? The odds of that happening.
Slim to none.
Exactly.
Right.
So while the payouts might be bigger for the bettor, the sportsbook has a much higher chance of coming out on top.
So by pushing parlays through this subscription service, they're essentially tilting the odds even further in their favor.
That's one way to look at it. And then there's the whole New York tax situation to consider.
Yes, New York.
Yeah.
Those taxes are no joke.
51% tax rate on sports betting revenue, one of the highest in the country. It's a huge burden for these companies.
So could this subscription model be a way for DraftKings to kind of sidestep those taxes?
Possibly. By creating this recurring revenue stream through subscriptions, they could create a more predictable income flow, potentially offsetting some of that tax burden.
That's fascinating. So it's like they're trying to build a more stable foundation for their business in a market that's known for its volatility.
Exactly. And if it works in New York, who knows? They might try to roll it out in other high-tax states as well.
This is getting really interesting now.
Yeah.
So we've talked about why DraftKings might be doing this. But let's flip the script for a second and look at it from the bettor's perspective. Is this subscription actually worth it for the average person?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? $20 a month, that's not exactly chump change, especially when you consider that parlays are already pretty risky bets.
Yeah, and you mentioned that $25 max bet limit. So even if you do hit big, your winnings are capped.
Right. So you got to weigh those factors against the potential benefits, you know, the enhanced odds, the possibility of turning a small bet into a decent chunk of change.
So it really comes down to your risk tolerance, how often you bet and how much you're willing to spend.
Exactly. It's a gamble, for sure. But isn't that what sports betting is all about?
I guess so. But there's a difference between taking a calculated risk and just throwing money away.
And that's where things get really interesting, because this whole subscription model raises some big questions about responsible gambling and the potential impact on people who might be more vulnerable to addictive behaviors.
Yeah, this could be a slippery slope for some folks.
Yeah.
Especially with those enhanced odds and the promise of bigger payouts.
Exactly. It's something we need to keep a close eye on as this story develops, because at the end of the day, we want people to enjoy sports betting responsibly and not end up in financial trouble.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Well, this has been a really insightful deep dive so far. We've gone from breaking news to a deep analysis of DraftKings strategy and even touched on some of the broader societal implications of this move.
And we're just getting started. We still need to talk about how this whole thing might impact DraftKings financially and their position in the market.
Right, because this could be a real turning point for them, either for better or for worse.
Exactly. So buckle up, folks. We're about to dive even deeper into the world of DraftKings and the future of sports betting. I mean, if this thing really takes off, this subscription service, it could be massive for DraftKings. Huge.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Like if they can pull this off, expand it nationwide.
Oh, yeah.
Steady stream of subscription revenue.
Steady revenue. It's a beautiful thing, especially in those high-tax states where they're getting squeezed.
Totally. And wouldn't it give them like a real edge over the competition
Oh,
too?
absolutely.
Right.
Like, think about it. You've got this dedicated base of subscribers. They're paying every month. They're less likely to jump ship to a competitor.
Right. They're
And-
invested literally.
Exactly. It's like built-in loyalty.
Right.
And if DraftKings plays their cards right, they could really sweeten the deal for those subscribers too.
Oh, yeah. Like what kind of stuff are we talking?
Think exclusive promotions, special contests, maybe even VIP experiences, just for being a subscriber.
Okay. So they're basically creating this like VIP club for sports bettors.
Exactly. And that could be a huge selling point.
But what if bettors just don't buy it?
Yeah.
What if they think $20 a month is too much or the benefits aren't good enough?
Yeah, that's the risk, right? They're asking people to pay a premium for the chance to win money, which is never a guarantee.
Right. So they got to find that sweet spot.
Exactly. A
Right.
price that's attractive enough to draw people in, but not so low that it eats into their profits.
It's a tough balancing act.
Yeah.
And speaking of high stakes, how do you think Wall Street's going to react to all this?
Uh,
Will investors be into it or are they going to freak out?
That's the big question right now. I think it all comes down to execution. If DraftKings can show that this subscription model is actually driving growth and boosting their bottom line,
Yeah.
investors will probably come around. They like to see results.
Results matter. So it's not just about the hype. It's about proving that this thing can actually work.
Exactly. And if it does work, it could change the whole perception of DraftKings. You know, they go from being this risky bet to a more stable and reliable investment.
And Wall Street loves stability.
Oh, yeah. Stability equals higher valuation, potentially. So this is about more than just boosting revenue in the short term. It's about shaping their image for the long haul.
It's like they're trying to control their own narrative.
Exactly. They're saying, we're not just a flash in the pan. We're here to stay.
This is getting really deep now. And it makes you think about the bigger picture, too. The whole U.S. sports betting market is exploding.
Oh, yeah. It's massive. And it's only getting bigger.
But with that growth comes responsibility, right? Both for the companies involved and for regulators.
Absolutely. We need to be having serious conversations about responsible gambling, about protecting consumers, making sure this whole thing doesn't get out of control.
Yeah, we got to strike that balance between letting people enjoy sports betting and making sure it doesn't turn into a problem.
Exactly. It's a tightrope walk for sure.
So we've talked about the potential downsides of this subscription model, but let's play devil's advocate for a minute. What if this actually ends up being a good thing for the industry?
Okay. I like where you're going with this.
What if it leads to more innovation, a greater focus on responsible gambling practices?
Yeah, it's possible, right? Maybe this shakes things up in a positive way.
Like maybe it forces companies to get more creative with their offerings, to come up with ways to enhance the betting experience while also promoting responsible gambling.
Yeah, maybe we'll see more educational resources, tools to help people manage their bankrolls.
Even new types of bets that are less risky or more skill-based.
Exactly. It could be like a whole evolution of the industry towards something more sustainable and responsible.
Okay, so a potential win-win situation for everyone involved.
It's definitely possible, but it's still early days. We got to see how this all plays out.
Right, we're still in the first inning of this game.
Exactly. But one thing's for sure. This is a major turning point for the sports betting world, and we'll be watching closely to see what happens next.
Okay, so we've talked about the big picture stuff, but let's zoom back in on DraftKings for a second. How do you think this subscription service could impact their overall position in the market? You know, it's funny you mentioned Wall Street because I was just thinking, if this subscription service really takes off, could it actually change how investors view DraftKings as a company?
That's a really interesting angle. Right now, I think a lot of investors see sports betting companies as being kind of unpredictable. You know, their fortunes are tied to things they can't really control, like game outcomes, individual bettor behavior.
So a lot of volatility, a lot of risk.
Exactly. But if DraftKings can prove that this subscription model works, that it creates a more stable and predictable revenue stream,
Yeah.
that could change everything. Investors love predictability.
It's like they're shifting from a boom or bust cycle to something more like a utility company.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that could make them much more attractive to a wider range of investors. You know, the ones who are looking for long-term growth and stability.
It's not just about attracting new bettors or squeezing more money out of existing ones. It's about fundamentally changing the way Wall Street views them.
Absolutely. It's like they're saying, hey, we're not just a gamble anymore. We're a solid investment.
I like that. From gamble to growth stock. That's a good headline.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it has a nice ring to it.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, from
Yeah.
the breaking news to the strategic implications to the financial impact. And we've even touched on some of the bigger societal questions surrounding this whole thing.
It's been a wild ride for sure.
So any final thoughts for our listeners before we wrap up?
I think the biggest takeaway here is that the sports betting world is evolving rapidly. And this move by DraftKings is a perfect example of that evolution. Whether it succeeds or fails, it shows that they're not afraid to shake things up, to try new things and push the boundaries.
And for investors, it's a reminder that this is an exciting and dynamic industry with tons of potential. But it's also an industry with a lot of risk and uncertainty.
So as always, do your research, stay informed, make smart decisions. And remember, this is not financial advice.
That's right. We're just here to provide the information and insights. You got to make your own calls.
Exactly. But hey, we love hearing your thoughts too. So hit us up on social media. Let us know what you think about this whole DraftKings subscription thing.
Absolutely. We're always up for a good discussion. And who knows, maybe we'll even feature some of your hot takes on the next deep dive.
Now that's something to look forward to.
Thanks for joining us on Talk Tickers, everyone. We'll see you next time.